I'm Eddie Muller, welcoming you once again to Noir Alley. One thing I've learned from my time hosting this show is that a lot of people, mainly guys, do not think a movie is truly noir unless there's a femme fatale. Now, by definition, this means a woman who uses her allure to manipulate people. She goes by many names: vamp, vixen, siren, seductress, temptress. But one descriptor never used for a femme fatale is housewife. But that's the evil schemer at the heart of today's movie, a middle-class housefrau who thinks she's entitled to everything and will stop at nothing to get it. Her name is Jane Palmer, and she's played by noir favorite Elizabeth Scott in Too Late for Tears, an independently produced film distributed by United Artists in 1949. This film had virtually disappeared by the latter part of the 20th century. Finding and restoring it was a crusade for my Film Noir Foundation. Since its creation in 2006, the foundation had this movie at the top of its most wanted list. Thanks to our donors and patrons and our colleagues at the UCLA Film and Television Archive, it's now been restored, rescreened theatrically, and released on Blu-ray. Its TCM debut was during the Summer of Darkness in 2015. After we watch it, I'll share more details about its escape from oblivion. But first, the reasons we worked so diligently to rescue this movie. It's based on a novel of the same name by Roy Huggins. Not a big name in crime fiction, but a man destined to be one of the most influential figures in American television. In the 40s, Huggins was studying engineering at UCLA when, like many other future writers, he became enthralled with the detective fiction of Raymond Chandler. He soaked up Chandler's style to create 3 novels of his own, joking that the first one, The Double Take, was written with a pen in one hand and a copy of The Big Sleep in the other. Columbia bought it and turned it into the 1948 film I Love Trouble, starring Franchot Tone and every available starlet on the Columbia lot. Huggins had a flair for dialogue, but titles were not his forte. His follow-up novel was called Break the Wild Wind, until an editor at William Morrow renamed it Nothing But the Night. When it was serialized in the Saturday Evening Post, the title was changed again to Too Late for Tears. Huggins may have been inspired by Chandler, but this plot was closer to the tales of another influential crime writer, James M. Cain, author of The Postman Always Rings Twice, who specialized in tales of lust and greed breaking apart already fragile homes. With the noir tide cresting in 1949, veteran producer Hunt Stromberg purchased the movie rights for Too Late for Tears in 1948 from his colleague Milton Sperling, who had wanted to make it as a vehicle for a couple of stars riding the noir wave. Joan Crawford, who'd made her comeback in a series of noir dramas produced by Jerry Wald, wanted to play the avaricious wife, while volatile newcomer Kirk Douglas, fresh off Out of the Past, was set to play her scheming partner in crime. Only it didn't work out that way. When Stromberg couldn't muster enough of a budget, he entered a deal with Republic Pictures and producer Hal Wallace and settled on a pair of second-tier players as his stars. Actors not coincidentally even more synonymous with crime pictures than the big stars who got away. But Elizabeth Scott and Dan Duryea still commanded big salaries, which left the budget pretty lean for the rest of the production. To save money, Too Late for Tears is mostly confined to interior sets. And as a result, it sometimes feels more like a drawing room farce than a doom-laden noir. But Huggins' story, full of hairpin twists and turns, more than makes up for the thrifty production. As conceived by Huggins, the character of Jane Palmer was so violently voracious she could not get past the production code. Script changes kept her greedy, but far less psychotic, turning her perhaps unintentionally into a character representing the dangerous depths of American materialism. Now, however you interpret her motivations, Jane Palmer is the most reprehensible character on Liz Scott's resume. So, imagine my disappointment after working so hard to restore this film when Ms. Scott declined to attend its re-premiere. She hated the movie. She had no problem celebrating some of her other films like Pitfall and Desert Fury, but Too Late for Tears was, for her, a film too far. She did not relish playing an unrepentant villain. Unrepentant villainy, however, was the specialty of her co-star, Dan Duryea, who by this time had such a reputation for slapping around his leading ladies that United Artists actually made this the film's poster image. They literally do not make them like that anymore. The third member of the triangle is Arthur Kennedy, who took the part originally intended for Wendell Corey to finance a return to Broadway, where that same year he'd win a Tony Award for his performance as Biff in Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman. Kennedy's naturalism is so completely at odds with the caricatures enacted by Scott and Duryea, it's like he's from another world, or at least a different acting school. Considering the deceitful dynamics of the script, the divergent acting styles actually work to the film's advantage. Directed by Byron Haskin and featuring in support Don DeFore and Christine Miller, Noir Alley is pleased to again present the Film Noir Foundation's restoration of the once lost 1949 film noir, Too Late for Tears.